Hello and welcome to my review of the Anycubic Kobra-max. I've had this printer about 3 or 4 weeks now. I've used it quite a lot. I haven't been sent this printer to review. I have however been sent it free of charge to learn the printer and be prepared to help other users when they start to ship today. So it's not a paid review, this is entirely my opinion. I have no affiliation as such with Anycubic or really any loyalty to them. This is just what I think of the printer, in as much as it's possible to do that. So as you can see, this is hardly a professional studio and it's hardly a monetized YouTube channel. I've got nothing to gain from this whatsoever. I won't receive a single penny. Even if this video gets 5 million hits, I won't get a penny. I've got nothing to gain from it other than sharing the information with you, and that's what I'm here to do. So the reason we're in the bedroom is because basically I've got nowhere else in the house where I can actually do this. This thing is too big, and here it is. As you can see, there's a bonus printer. That's my Vyper sitting on the print bread. That's how big this thing is. It is absolutely immense. So let me take this away for now so you can see it. As you can see, it's very clearly a large format printer. It has dual rails for the bed. The bed is 400 by 400 by 450 on the Z. It's a single drive motor for the bed, and I'll get some close-ups shortly, but it's a dual belt, dual rail drive. It's dual Z drive obviously. The hot end carriage is the version 4 from the Vyper. It's now tried and tested. Same BNG clone extruder. Now features toolless belt adjustment on all 3 of the belts. And that's the machine. So I'm going to get the other camera so we can get some close-ups and show you in a bit more detail and tell you a bit more about it in a bit more detail. This is the quick introduction. That's the baby there. It is absolutely immense. Okay, so now you're going to have to excuse my shaky wobbly camera skills because this is just basically with my phone. So starting at the bottom, the bed, as you can see, is dual rail. There's dual drive belts, dual belt tensioners, and no less than 12 wheels, 6 on each side, to hold this thing down. It's only this first 3 on the right hand side that are actually fixed. All the other 9 wheels are all adjustable all the way across. That's necessary because, as you can imagine, it's not an easy task to get all of those wheels adjusted correctly. It will be a nightmare any other configuration. It's still a bit of a task. What I did was I loosened everything off because there was slack to start with, so I loosened everything off and I adjusted the first 3 here to get this side all right, and then I adjusted the inside 3 here till they just started to bite, and adjusted the outside till they just started to bite, and then I had to fiddle about with the 6 on this side a wee bit. You've got to be careful because obviously the more tension you put on this side, it can start to affect this side. But if you take it slowly and logically, it's not too bad a task. So the bed's lovely and stable. It's absolutely solid as a rock, which is good. Moving across to the display, it is a slightly different display. The SD card's in a different place. The SD card's also not recessed all the way into the display, where the card's going to just slide in there and miss the slot entirely. That's a good move. It's got some detailing on the case, but really in use there's no difference between the Vyper and this screen. They're pretty much the same thing. Unfortunately, as with the Vyper and as with many other printers out there, it's not programmed with the necessary screens to allow pause at height to be resumed and things like that. It's not programmed to show the print options while printing from SD. Until people start complaining at these companies that it's about time they stepped up to the mark and programmed these touch screens properly, nothing's going to change. It isn't an Anycubic thing by any stretch of the imagination. The power supply has been relocated to the back right hand side. It's that silver box there. The power switch is now on the left hand side, just behind the screen. Much better position for it, without a doubt. That's a definite plus. The power supply fan is significantly noisier. When it's on full whack, it's really quite noisy. It is controlled, so it's adjusts depending on demand, and when the print finishes it does shut down completely. The fans all turn off completely and the machine is dead silent once the print is finished, which is a good thing. Stepper motors run extremely cool. I was really quite shocked how cool these things run. 4 or 5 degrees above ambient. Given the size of this bed, glass at that, there's some significant weight there to throw around, and it's still the single motor for the Y. As you can see, it's got a through shaft with drive gear at each end to drive the 2 belts, but even that motor is cool. It's barely warm. After it's been printing 10 hours, it's barely warm. I was really quite shocked at that. I don't know what they've done to allow that, but yeah, very good. Obviously less heat being generated, there is less energy being wasted, I would suspect. It's dual Z, obviously. No one in the right mind is going to produce a printer this size that isn't dual Z. However, it's a single Z end stop, and we now have a sync belt at the top here to sync the 2 motors together. So these cannot turn independently. When you turn one, it turns both of them. Some people are going to no doubt say that this single Z end stop here is a step backwards. I don't think so. I think it was probably done based on cost, but it's an advantage in my opinion. It's one less end stop to go wrong, and I have had people where one or the other end stop has gone wrong, and that puts the machine out of action. So it's one less end stop to go wrong. There's really nothing to go wrong with that, short of that belt snapping, and I just can't see how you could snap that belt, to be honest. So I think this is a positive, not a negative. It's easier to level the gantry. I did check that the gantry is level when I assembled it. Bring the gantry down to near the bed and measure down to the bed at each side of the gantry to make sure it's the same each side, and it was. But if it isn't, It's simply a case of focus. It's simply a case of loosening those two grub screws on one side. You can then turn that side independent of the other until the gantry is level, and then just tighten those grub screws again, and then it can never go out of level. It doesn't actually need the two ZN stops to do it. So I consider that to be a positive. I don't consider it to be a negative. I think others will probably disagree with me, but that's entirely up to them. It's their choice. As you can see, it has braces for the verticals. That's pretty much a necessary step with a vertical frame as high as this. So this makes the thing rock solid, and I mean rock solid. They're adjustable at both ends. See if I can get this to focus. You simply loosen that nut, and before you attach it, you just spin that round to adjust the length. There is an arc slot in the top here on both sides, so you adjust it until it's sort of sitting more or less in the middle of the slot, and lock these lock nuts off, and then you can, if you need to, which I didn't, you can move the frame slightly forward or back and then lock these nuts in place and lock it all together. It is extremely rigid. This thing only just, and I mean only just, fits through my doorways. So I assembled it and set it up in one room, and then I moved it to the other room when I got the printer shelving, and I literally bounced it off every door frame trying to get it through into the other room. It was quite a nightmare, and I didn't bother re-leveling or anything. I just put it on the shelves, plugged it in, fired a print off, and away it went. The level is still perfect. It's been levelled once the day I got it. It's not been touched since. I bounced it through the house again to do this video, and I don't doubt that it's going to be exactly the same when I come to plug it back in when I get it back. So that's what else we've got to cover here. Right, the hot end is the revision 4 hot end from the Vyper. As you can see, Vyper users will be fully familiar with this. It does come pre-fitted with a silicon sock, which is a good idea. Has the same leveling sensor. It's the same carriage, it's identical. Same hot end, volcano. For some reason they made the X end stop exposed. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. Would have been nice to have extended the cover over it, but obviously there must be some reason for that. It's the same BMG clone extruder, very good extruder in my opinion. I was planning on fitting one to the ender, although I think now, to be honest, the ender's not going to really see much light of day now that this thing's here. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. The main board is a completely updated new main board. It is not a Vyper main board. This main board has full UART control of the steppers already wired in, unlike the Vyper. So those that wish to switch to a custom firmware for linear advance will be able to take advantage of true linear advance, where the Vyper relies on a workaround to get linear advance working. This, you have the full UART control, so the full proper linear advance is going to be workable on this with a custom firmware. There's been a lot of speculation that this is just a big Vyper. It's not a big Vyper. I mean, there's the obvious change of the bed, there's the obvious change of the size. It's a completely new and updated motherboard. It's not actually a Vyper screen, although it works the same. It's not a Vyper screen, it's a different board. It has a Vyper carriage, and really that's where the similarity ends. It has the same Vyper carriage and levelling system, and that's really where the similarity ends. Obviously all printers of this format are much of a muchness in any case, but this is not a large Vyper. It is a very different machine. So there we go, that's the Anycubic Kobra. I will say it is absolutely amazing. I'm blown away, but I'm just blown away by how good this thing is. I really am blown away by it. As I said at the beginning of the video, I have no real affiliation or loyalty to Anycubic. If I found that this was a pile of rubbish, that's exactly what I would be saying. It's a pile of rubbish, but it isn't. It's every bit as good as a Vyper. Every bit as good as a Vyper. I would say it's better than a Vyper, although that's not to take anything away from a Vyper, because the Vyper is still a truly excellent printer as well. And the size of this thing is going to mean that there are a good number of people that will go with a Vyper, because you have to. This is huge. It maybe doesn't look it, but when you start considering when the bed's fully back to the bed fully forward, how much space this thing needs to operate, it is very significant. For a lot of people, that's going to be a deciding factor. I don't doubt it for 1 second. The Vyper is much more compact. So there you go. I'll go and get some prints now and show you the stuff that I've printed on it. Okay, so when I set this up, as I've said, I simply brought in my Vyper profile, and I stuck the Vyper profile in Cura and I started printing. There's no calibration been done. I've done no test prints, no calibration prints. I've not tuned anything. I've not changed anything. It's just the exact same settings as I use on the Vyper. I've not attempted to fine-tune it at all. So what I get here is basically what you get out of the box. There's no trickery involved. So this was the first print that I did. This Celtic skull from 3D Cults. It's printed in Technology Outlet Pro PLA in Magic Purple. As you can see, it's fairly good. Underneath the jawline here is the only place where it requires supports, and to be honest, I am not great with supports. There's very few things that I tend to usually print that need supports, so my support setting skills are at this point somewhat lacking, but still it's not bad at all. The rest of the print is just superb. So that was the first thing ever printed on it. That was the first thing that came off the bed. When I started the print, I thought this was probably a mistake. I think I should maybe have done some test prints, but I was pleasantly surprised. I then went on and printed it again because I wanted to use rub and buff. And I also wanted to have a raw one to show you, so I printed it again and I rub and buffed this one. This one's been sprayed with a grey undercoat and then sprayed with matte black and then rub and buff. Now obviously spraying raw PLA highlights the layer lines. Spray paint always picks out imperfections, so the layer lines are exaggerated in this. I knew that was going to be the case. I actually didn't mind. I wanted that effect because I wanted this to look a bit like oldie, and I think that enhances the appearance of it, having those sort of layer lines in it. But they're still not that bad. You can see them much easier than in the other one though, obviously. So that was print number 2. Print number 3 was this one, which again I've rub and buffed. This was the same PLA. I didn't spray this, I just printed it and rub and buffed directly onto the purple PLA. As you can see, it's fairly good quality. See if I can get it to focus a bit better. It's pretty good quality. It's obviously quite a small print. I'm going to get video bombed by my cat here. So that was print number 3. And then print number 4 was the big boy. Let's see if I can. As you can see, somewhat bigger than the little one. And again, this is pretty good quality. It was 0.1mm. You can see some stair stepping on the top. That's not a problem with the printer, obviously. That's the simple fact that FDM printing, you get stair stepping. The actual print itself is pretty damn good. Again, it was supports under the chin, so it's not fantastic there, but as I say, I'm not good with supports. I don't like using them, although I'm going to have to get used to the fact. So that was print number 4. Quite likey. Also made the cricket housing unit. Hopefully you can see it. Four separate units like this. These are printed with Cura's fuzzy skin to give some grip to it, so the crickets can climb up on the inside. That's where they sleep in there. It's TPU bungs on the top, all done on the Kobra. Prints the eSun 95A TPU very well. As you can see, the bottom of the unit is printed with just normal surface. There's no fuzzy skin on the rest of it. Overhangs are all good. Very good print. I've actually made 2 of these. One is actually in the cricket enclosure now. So that was print number 5. Print number 6. I have to say, in all the time that I've been printing, on all the printers, this is my all-time favourite print. I absolutely love this print. This is just stunning. I'm going to see if I can zoom this out a bit so I can see it. This print is stunning. This is in Technology Outlet Pro PLA again, in Magic Coal. I've used a wee bit of rub and buff, gold rub and buff, to bring out the eyes obviously, but the rest of it is just raw print. There's been no treatment to it, nothing done to it whatsoever. It's just pure, exactly as it comes off the printer. I absolutely adore this print. I just absolutely adore it. It is superb. I couldn't even imagine this looking as good as it looks. Everyone who's seen it has just said wow, quite rightly too. So jumping back to the bed, this is the issue with the bed. As you can see on the bottom of this print, you can see the lines that grid leaves on the bottom of the print. It's certainly not a deal breaker, don't get me wrong. I'm being very, very pedantic here, I really am. That bottom layer, you cannot feel those. It looks like there's depth to them. There isn't. You can't feel them, it's just visual. But a perfect flat face like that being marred by those lines is just insanity. It is just, I just cannot comprehend what they were thinking to paint those lines on the bed. I can't, honestly. It's just completely beyond me. But still, it is what it is. It's still an exceptionally good bed. Certainly, that is the only negative about that bed is that printed grid. The bed is absolutely superb. The adhesion is just amazing. It is so flat, it's unreal. It's less than 2 cigarette papers out over the entire bed. I've put the straight edge on it and checked it, and I can just and only just get 2 cigarette papers under the straight edge at one point. That is amazing for a diagonally. It's 650 millimeters or something, 630 millimeters, and over the entire diagonal there's one point where I can just get 2 cigarette papers under it. That is amazing, absolutely amazing. So that was print number 6, and the latest print that I've just pulled off yesterday is the Anycubic Kobra print from the Anycubic media page on Facebook. Now this, I hammered it a bit. My Vyper profile is quite high acceleration values, and I pushed this to 80 millimeters a second, so it's high acceleration and high speed. I was expecting this to probably fail, to be honest, at 80 millimeters a second. That was 80 millimeters a second walls as well, and as you can see, it didn't fail. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It's not a perfect print, but it's very good. Especially for the speed, it's very good. Everything articulated as it should do, right down to the very tip. The first layer for this, I would ordinarily, when I'm doing a flexi like this, the dragons and such like, I would have my first layer down to probably 15 millimeters a second to make sure I get that adhesion. This bed sticks so well, I thought, I don't think there's any need to go for that. So I set this to 40 millimeters a second for the initial layer, and there was 0 problems with adhesion. It was stuck like proverbial poo to a blanket. So that was the latest print that I pulled off it just yesterday. So that's my test prints there. I don't know what you think of them. I think they are excellent, considering it's not tuned specifically for this printer. I've not done anything to optimize this printer in any way whatsoever. It's completely stock. I do always change from the white PTFE to Capricorn. I haven't done that. I've left it exactly as it came in the box. I've done nothing to it whatsoever, and I've not tried to tune anything. I've just used the Vyper profile because I know it's a good start point. I haven't even tuned that, and that's the results I'm getting. It can only improve with fine-tuning that profile, if I even bother to try, to be honest, because I don't see anything in those prints that's going to warrant any change in the profile or anything. I don't think I'm going to get any improvement by messing about with it, to be honest. I'm not sure I want any improvement. It's really good. So that's my Anycubic Kobra-max. My opinion of it is it is superb. That's my opinion. I'm not paid to give it. I have no, as I said, I have no loyalty to Anycubic whatsoever. That is my genuine, honest opinion of this printer. It is superb. I now have 3 printers, the Vyper, this and the Ender 3 Max. If I have to get rid of one, it's the Ender 3 Max. If I have to get rid of 2, it's the Ender 3 Max and the Vyper. This printer will leave this house over my cold dead body. It's as simple as that. This is an absolutely amazing piece of kit. I've got no idea how much it's going to cost, because this is filmed before release date and I'm not privy to that information. So that's going to be an interesting reveal for me to find out how much it actually is. I think it's fairly clear it's going to be significantly more than a Vyper. And I think that's going to be the determining fact on whether someone buys this or buys a Vyper. Both printers are capable of the same quality, without a doubt. Both printers are capable of producing everything that's sat on that print bed now. The Vyper can do it, and this can do it. The Vyper can do it size-wise as well. There's nothing there that needs the size of the Kobra. So the amount of space that this thing needs is going to be a big determining factor, because this needs a lot of space. The Vyper you can get away with on a small computer desk. This you absolutely cannot. You need a dining room table for this. So I think that's going to be a big determining factor on whether people go with a Vyper or go with this, or the Kobra with the direct drive. I think all 3 printers are probably going to turn out to be superb. I haven't any experience of the direct drive one other than what I've heard from other testers, but that's looking to be just as good as this is, although obviously a much smaller format. So that's the Anycubic Kobra-max. If you have any questions, then please feel free to post your questions in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them if I can. I would really appreciate it if you could share this video far and wide. Not because it's going to make me any money, because it isn't. Even if it gets 5 million hits, I ain't going to see a penny. I've got no monetization on my channel whatsoever. But I want people to know about this printer. It is superb, and as you can see, I've got no financial gain from saying so. That's my opinion. That's what I think of it, and I want other people to know about it. So subscribe if you wish to. The button's there. Makes no difference to me whether you do or you don't, other than when I see subscribers, I know somebody appreciates what I'm doing. But please, if you can, share this video far and wide. I would really appreciate that. It would be a big help to me to let people know what this machine's capable of. So thanks very much for watching and taking the time. Sorry to have bored you with my rambling and my very poor video skills. It is what it is. I'm slowly learning, but it's slowly. But the message is the same. This is a great printer. Enjoy. Bye bye everyone.